Hello and welcome to the Face the Nation Diary. It's Friday, January 8th, 2016. I'm John Dickerson. I've just landed in Columbia, South Carolina, where I've come to cover the summit being hosted by House Speaker Paul Ryan and Senator Tim Scott, senator from South Carolina. The summit is where Republican candidates, some of them anyway, are going to talk about poverty and opportunity, a topic you never hear about on the campaign trail, really. It's been put together by the Jack Kemp Foundation, and on the plane down, that early morning flight from Washington, I ran into Joanne Kemp, who's the widow of the late congressman from New York. She had no reason to remember me, but I've probably traveled 50,000 miles or more with Joanne Kemp because I covered her husband, Jack Kemp, back in 1996 when he was Dole's running mate. He was a lot of fun to cover. He really loved to campaign, and he campaigned in places like Watts and in Harlem, at least until the Dole campaign told him that that was not where they were going to find Republican votes. I've been dialing around the various campaigns and strategists and people I've known over the years from New Hampshire and Iowa and South Carolina. One of them called me back yesterday, and we both happened to be in an auto repair shop at the same time. His view from New Hampshire was interesting. Donald Trump has a lock, he thinks. This is not some starry-eyed guy. This is somebody who's very skeptical of Donald Trump. And what was interesting is not just that Donald Trump is doing well in New Hampshire, but he said he's getting a lot of kind of mainstreamish kind of Republicans who are coming to him and whispering that they like Trump, that they see some validity in some of the things he says. These are not rabid conservatives or kind of Tea Party conservative types who would fall in behind Trump. And there is a corollary to this, which is that when they whisper they like Trump, they also say, well, when he gets into office, he's not going to say the kind of crazy things he says on the stump. He's not going to be as out there. So they're pricing in, or discounting, I should say, for his rhetoric. Out in Iowa, Cruz is the story. Expectations are through the roof for him. That is what we're going to start seeing in the coverage of the Iowa caucuses, which is the coverage of the thing that's happening and then the spin and the expectation setting around who's going to do well. The way it works is that all of Cruz's rivals boast about how well he's doing in the hopes that it becomes conventional wisdom that he's going to win in a walk. Then if he doesn't, everybody will say, oh, well, he underperformed because they found they didn't like something about him. So they're trying to set his high water mark now. This is the kind of thing that hurt Reagan in 1980 when he lost Iowa, hurt Bush in 88 when he lost to Dole, and then in Dole in 96 when he won, but not by what everybody thought he would win by. There's that 1996 race again. Cruz's rivals want to see him fall, and so they're saying how great he's doing. And Cruz isn't doing anything to tamp down expectations. He's talking about the groundswell he's seeing, and in part he is seeing a groundswell because of his strong ground game. His campaign claims to have 6,000 grassroots volunteers. They've set up a 50-room dormitory called Camp Cruz to house volunteers who are going across the country in what the campaign calls a strike force. So given that Cruz and Trump are at the top of the polls here in Iowa, there's a lot more talk recently, and there has been for the last few weeks, about third place in Iowa. The traditional cliche is that there are 3 tickets out of Iowa. In other words, the state doesn't pick the president, but it winnows the field. So who's going to be number 3? Again, a lot of coverage about, is it going to be one of these more mainstream candidates, Cruz, Rubio, Christie, Rubio, or Bush? And it reminds me again of that 1996 race when Lamar Alexander came in third and was the story coming out of Iowa, because everybody knew it was a race between Dole and Buchanan. But for Lamar to have done as well as he did in Iowa, which was really not that well, he came in third, nevertheless made him the story going into New Hampshire, which was about as long as he was the story for about 24 hours, and then his campaign didn't make it. Someone tweeted today that there are only 2 people who still talk about Lamar Alexander's presidential campaign, me and Lamar Alexander. I resemble that remark. For Face the Nation, I'm John Dickerson.